Sleepers Podcast, it's Monday, March 17th, and this is going to have a little different format to it than our previous full episodes because it is Selection Sunday, and there's things to attend to. We don't have time for banter, Cart, so let me just make sure I set the table. We're going to give you our initial bracket reaction. We're recording this right after the bracket show, and then Cart will fill out his entire bracket, pick by pick for you in its own segment. I will fill out my own bracket, pick by pick for you in my own segment. We'll give you a little bit of intel on why with those picks. Again, this is a very fresh first reaction type recording. Maybe things will change and we'll have more coverage on that later this week. We will have previews and recaps of all of these games in the NCAA tournament with our full team coming up on the channel in the coming days as well. But man, it's the best time of year. I am excited. More importantly, I am a champion. You are a champion, Cart. Can we take a moment to just toast to the season that was for our two teams?
I just want to say out there's many a podcast that I highly recommend everyone takes a part of and consumes. I would love to pose the question, who out there, what podcast out there has two hosts that hung a banner in the same year? That's all I'm going to say. In the same conference, might I add. They laughed at us. They said Save the Big Ten was stupid. It is officially saved now, and I want everyone to remember this moment.
Remember it. Wise words from Cartel. All right, I'm looking forward to this, my friend. Should be a fun night. Yeah, anything else? We'll just have the usual content starting tomorrow, but any announcements from you? Oh, the March games. We got to talk about those.
Yes. Do I have to talk about them?
Well, you don't know anything about them, and you claim you don't want to participate in them?
Yes, I will not be participating in them.
You realize, once again, every year I remind you this, you not participating in the games is hurtful to us as a company because people want to compete against you in the games.
Oh, for real?
Please just do the games. You don't even have to pay to do them. Just do them. Okay. So there's 4 games. Shout out to Dion, that boy D Hill, who set all this up for us since I could have my wife go into labor literally right now. Who knows? Still waiting for that.
Well, happy due date, by the way.
Thank you. Little one's a champion. Little one's born into greatness. Who could have seen that coming? Murph had to go through the mud. Anyways, so we have 4 games. We're going to do a traditional bracket challenge contest. Just fill out your picks, try and win. We're going to do a confidence pick'em, which is really fun. Basically, every single game, every single day of the NCAA tournament, you'll assign a score 1 to 16 based on how confident you are and get as many points for every correct pick that you have. In the end, there will be one winner. We're going to do a players draft where you draft just players for points per game. But obviously, the catch is you want to draft players you think will play multiple games. That's always one of my favorites. And then we're going to do a survivor pool, which is very simple. Just pick one winner a day. Don't pick a loser. Keep it going. Last person in wins it all. So all 4 of those are being set up exclusive to our Discord. If you want to get in any of these games, join the Discord. Dion sent us an update today. I think there's like 15 to 20 people right now doing every single one of the games. So hoping to get 30 to 40 for each of those games in the end. And you got a couple days to join, but the quicker you join, the better. It is $9.99 a month to join the Sleepers Discord. And for those people listening to this that want to join that aren't in the Discord, sorry, this year we're just doing it for Discord members. Given the way that YouTube went with us, honestly, we need all the help we can get getting some people in the Discord. So that's the reason for that. Without further ado, initial bracket thoughts, Car. How do you want to do this? Do you want to, why don't we go like one big bracket takeaway each, and then we'll go region by region with some additional thoughts.
Oh, okay. One big bracket takeaway I think I'll put in this is that I think that the committee's messy. I think the committee's messy because the committee being messy is putting Coach Cal, Coach Pitino, and Coach Self all in the same pod in Providence, Rhode Island, might I add. It's going to be great. And look, I'm not one to like push back on teams getting in, teams getting out. That's not my place to do. I get the outrage. I understand how it goes. But, gee, can I also say this? Does North Carolina really belong in this tournament? Actually?
Not at all. They 100% do not.
Okay, so I don't understand why I have to listen to fake arguments about why they should be here. They literally, by every single metric, eye test, anything you want to do it by, they should be nowhere near the NCAA tournament.
I think you're right.
They had a chance to get in. All they had to do was not do a lane violation and beat your rival that you have a chance to at the 3rd time without their National Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
The handouts are crazy.
I think you're correct, Cart. I think you are correct. Yeah, we'll go region by region on some specific things. I feel like in general, there's a lot of mistakes or things that feel just consensus was shocked about this year more than normal. Like North Carolina in, I think Indiana out. A lot of people thought that team was firmly in the tournament. I don't think Indiana fans even care because Woodson's out. But yeah, even some seedings like Memphis. We have Memphis fan John Martin who was like, "We're going to be in the 8-9 game, 5 seed." Like what? I was certainly surprised Michigan was the 5 after the way this week went, let alone the draw they got. More on that in a moment. But yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of things that would indicate the committee was done with this bracket like on Friday.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the only explanation for like a lot of these decisions feels like we seeded it on Friday and then we stopped.
We know that though, right? Maybe we forgot because like we said the same thing last year. Truly, Sunday doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I feel like this year Saturday doesn't matter. How else do you explain North Carolina getting in? Like
The
they put North Carolina in because they were in at the end of
conference
Friday.
conference tournaments do not matter.
I just yeah, you might as well not play conference tournaments at this point.
Right. All you can do is get hurt. All you can do is get hurt in them, get people ammo to talk shit about you because you lost to somebody. And even if you win, and all you do is put a piece of paper up behind you.
Right. Yeah, completely crazy. So yeah, I guess I don't know what that does going forward. Probably just us being stupid every year. We always forget this. But any other like small gripes before we go region by region on this? I have like a couple nitpicky, like, damn, I'm annoyed the broad bracket shook out this way things.
Are you looking at more like mad this team got in, you're mad this team got this draw?
Teams I want to pick in certain spots are paired up with teams I can't pick them against. For example, BYU, I would pick to the Final Four in
Okay.
two other regions, and
That's
they're
where
in
I,
Duke's region.
that's where I
That
was gonna go.
that sucks. I have been actually waiting to unveil this car after watching as much hoop as I could this week. I have a take. I think Houston may be the biggest threat to Duke.
Mm.
And there's a world where I was going to pick Houston to win the national championship coming into this, but they're on the same half of the bracket as Duke. So I can't even pick them to the national championship. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's really frustrating. Like, I came in so confident I want Houston versus Duke for the title. And now I'm like scratching on, damn, am I going to put Tom Izzo or Rick Pitino through?
Yeah. I will say one thing that stuck out to me right away though. Purdue is beyond cooked.
Ooh, I'm excited to talk more about that. I
Yeah.
find it funny, like a couple pairings that felt just for us, Purdue and Illinois in the same region, Michigan and Michigan State in the same region.
I mean, look, I have no fear of that. I love it. I love to see it. I'm actually very interested to maybe when we go through it, we can talk a little bit more about where the Big Ten teams got seeded because it's interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Okay. All right, without further ado, let's go region by region. We'll start with the first one that was unveiled, the South region, the region that both of our teams call home. Auburn is the 1 seed, Michigan the 5, Michigan State the 2. Louisville in close proximity to like isn't the game being played in Louisville or somewhere in Kentucky?
I think it's in Kentucky, I believe.
So like basically a pseudo home game for Louisville against Auburn potentially if they get through Creighton in the round of 32. Michigan's draw is torturous. We'll talk about that in a moment. Iowa State, the 3 seed here, but a lot less scary suddenly with your favorite guard in the country, Keyshawn Gilbert, scratched for the rest of the year. And Cam Jones, Michigan State could be fun. Another Shaka Tom Izzo NCAA tournament thing. What's your general reaction to the South region?
I mean, I think my general reaction to this is looking at the rest of the bracket. I think the 7-10 is a lot weaker than a lot of other, regions of the bracket. And also, as you go to the top, out of the 1 seeds, even though Auburn is the number 1 overall seed, I think you can make an argument that they are the least scary number 1 seed out of the number ones. And obviously, you go through it, you look at the other high seeds. You mentioned Iowa State. They limp into the tournament, literally and figuratively, not having Keyshawn Gilbert. And then the shock part, like you already mentioned, Louisville being an 8 was wild to me, and Michigan being a 5 after what they did is crazy to me as well. We can dive a little bit into that, but them playing a team in UC San Diego, the Tritons, great year. force a lot of turnovers. And then if they win that, they face Texas A&M, which is or Yale, either one, maybe a Danny Wolf revenge game. So that's a tough little pod right there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, multiple revenge games potentially for my team is immediately intriguing. You could get Danny Wolf against his former team if Yale upsets Texas A&M and Michigan takes care of business. And then, God forbid, Trey Donaldson against Auburn in the Sweet 16 if you got there. Now, there's so many hoops to jump through to get there. But like as a fan that feels like my team just did like the team of destiny run this week, kind of love it. Like let's stack all the odds against us. I'll probably elaborate more on this later this week in some form, Cart. But I've picked, you know this for a month. I've picked Michigan to be upset in the first round. They drew the best mid major in the country, a historically good mid major, who is very specifically set up to do their best thing, which is Michigan's worst thing. They
Yeah.
force turnovers. Michigan turns it over constantly. So it's a nightmare draw in the first round. If you get through that, in the second round, you get the best rebounding team in college basketball for 3 years running with this personnel against a Michigan team that gets beat up on the boards often. So, again, as the two weaknesses Michigan has could not be more exploited in the first two games than this. Highly unlikely they get through that. Like, just mathematically, highly unlikely they get through that. But mentally, as a fan, this is gravy at this point, I think. Like now that I got this, I got a
Oh,
fake
okay.
banner, right? Who cares? This season is a success. I didn't
Okay.
have much hope they were going to make a tourney run anyway.
Okay.
Might as well do the thing that this Big Ten tournament became, Cart, of like, everybody says we're lucky. F it, line up. Let's go.
Line up.
Let's do it. As long as I don't see Michigan State, I don't really care at this point. You want to see Danny Wolf against Yale or a team that beats us up on the board? Sure. Because if we win, I'm gonna be so insufferable at this point. With this,
Also, why can't we get away from you?
that's the most frustrating part of this to me. Like I don't even have hope for a Final Four run because Thomas always
Right,
stands
like
there.
you could make an Elite Eight, Greg, and I'm not even worried about this coming back to bite me. We meet in the Elite Eight. You're not winning.
Right.
So
There's
like that.
no world Michigan beats
But
Michigan
any
State.
other team, you might have a little chance. But if it's us, we're tied at the hip, I
I
guess.
would genuinely rather play Duke than Michigan State. But the one thing I will say, again, if you're looking for optimism, Michigan fans, there isn't much reason for it at all. But if you are looking for it, I think there's a world where the top seeds in our little pod get upset. Like Auburn is vulnerable right now. They are not the Auburn they were a month ago. They could easily lose a game where Louisville makes 23s in the state of Kentucky in the round of 32. I think Texas A&M is great. If Texas A&M plays Michigan, I think that's doomsday for Michigan, to be honest. But I think Yale could beat Texas A&M. Yale beat an SEC team last year. I like this Yale team from what I've seen. They're good. So they're going to frustrate them with the way they play offensively, how smart they are. I think they can avoid turnovers against that defense. So yeah, I don't know. It's a nightmare draw for my team. I'm kind of just taking it on the chin, like whatever at this point, because God forbid we win a couple, it's going to make it a little more fun than it would be to just get an easy draw and do it.
Mhm.
On the bottom side, what's your fear level as a Michigan State fan of teams like Marquette, Iowa State?
So Iowa State, obviously, I do fear that I've been very high on them throughout the year. So there is a fear level involved with that. But without Keyshawn Gilbert, I think they're kind of limping into this game. And then just specifically that bottom pod right there, Marquette having the guard that they have in Cam Jones. I just feel good about Michigan State's depth wearing on that team because you watch Marquette a lot this year. They are very five-player centric, honestly, three guard centric. Basically, Cam Jones, Joplin, and then whatever else they can get from Mitchell and Ross in that game. And then New Mexico, they had a really good year. I don't know if they even make it past Marquette, but Donovan Dent's really good. But also, that's another guard that I feel good about Michigan State's guards and depth kind of wearing down those teams defensively. I think I saw something from DK that Marquette has won like one top 50 game in like the last like 2 months or something like that. They're not necessarily playing their best basketball after starting out really hot in the Big East. And then we get to a point where we might see an Iowa State team without one of their better players if we get to that point. So all in all, not to be like confident or overly confident or anything like that, I really like Michigan State's draw here.
Yeah. It's a draw that if you're a Michigan State fan, you should love your path to at least the Elite Eight. it's funny because I've been saying like the matchup I'm most intrigued with for Michigan State before the season ends is what happens when they play some tough psychopath freaks that
Yeah,
won't get spooked by Jeremy Fears clapping in their face.
right.
Like you're gonna have to get through Auburn, I think, to make a Final Four. And if you get through, or if you don't have to get through Auburn, like there's a world it's Texas A&M cart. A&M is just as tough as Auburn is, and pretty psychopathic themselves. So the one thing I would say, Michigan State's toughness mantra that essentially broke the Big Ten will
Mhm.
be tested in this region
Yeah,
because even Marquette, not the best team, certainly their front court is not anything to be afraid of,
they're
but
tough
those
to shut down.
guards
They're
are
tough.
tough.
They are very
Cam
tough.
Jones is not going to freak out because you clap in his face.
Yep.
If you get through Marquette, Iowa State is a team that prides itself on defense and toughness
Mhm.
and has veteran guards that I don't think will be spooked. So it does feel like a draw. Michigan State is the best team and should get out of, but that toughness point, like Holloman Fears better back up the toughness with real play in this run. If they do, I think it opens up really nicely for Michigan State. If they don't, it could be interesting. Also, maybe a draw where like foul trouble could hurt your bigs. That's the one thing I would say. Like there's some good playmaking guards that like could theoretically get Kohler in trouble in these games.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
obviously, that's something to worry about when you get there. What about New Mexico? I know you love New Mexico and Donovan Dent. Like, do you make them have a real chance here at all?
The thing is, it really hinges on Donovan Dent being that special. And even if he is that special, I've been very big fan of New Mexico throughout this year. They've played a lot of close games in that Mountain West, and the way they bowed out in the Mountain West tournament didn't make me feel the best, given where that team is at. But I'll never completely put down a well-coached team with the other Patino and Donovan Dent just being as great as he is. But I do think there is a little bit more to be desired with the rest of that team.
Yeah. Okay. Dent's intriguing. We'll do our game picks in a little, but like
He's really good.
he'd be fun to watch, and how would he fare against the Michigan State guards would be really fun to watch. But either way, you're getting a superstar. You're getting Donovan Dent or Cam Jones in round 32. So, all right, let's do. I think we'll do more on this later this week, but just give me like a double digit seed team to watch.
Ooh, double digit seed team. Honestly, unfortunately for you, G, it is UC San Diego. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I do want to throw a quick flyer out there for Lipscomb. If Iowa State is beat up, Lipscomb is old. They have a really good player. Not going to butcher his last name. I think it's Ogasevich.
Agnesavich, I believe.
Ognesev, like that dude is really good. I'm not saying Iowa State is gonna, not beat that team, but that'd be the second team over the obvious UC San Diego pick because that team's just been incredible this season.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move to the next region that was revealed. The East. Duke is the one. You got Oregon and Arizona as the 4 and the 5. Maybe Baylor as the 9 against Duke in the second round could be fun. BYU is the 6. You know, I love BYU. They got to get through VCU. And then could have Wisconsin as the 3 seed, Alabama as the 2 seed, St. Mary's as the 7, and 9-2 Vanderbilt, whatever they ended up as the 10. AJ Hoggard back in the NCAA tournament. Initial thoughts on the East region?
Enjoy the Final Four, Duke.
Cakewalk.
Yeah, actually,
I don't know if I see it that easy, but it's definitely like wide open for them.
if you had to label a cakewalk region, which one would it be?
It'd be this one.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, did like DJ Edgecombe could have like a legacy game, Shellstad and Caleb Love. Like you have to get through some individual guys who could like go nuclear. The idea of Caleb Love versus Duke again in the Sweet 16 is kind of crazy. Could
Uh,
you imagine
Jeremy Roach versus Duke second round?
Caleb Love extinguishes Coach K and then extinguishes the Cooper Flag team?
That'd be insane.
He would have the most iconic legacy in NCAA history at that point.
They'd have to retire his jersey at UNC, even though he left.
Seriously, yeah. So that's fun. On the bottom half, do you think that Wisconsin has a chance here? I mean, BYU, Wisconsin, Alabama in a pod. One of those 3 teams feels like they'll be in the Elite 8. Kind of
I,
something.
I do think Wisconsin has a chance, and shout out to Jeff Borzelli. He pointed out there's some offenses in this region, some very high potent offenses. Um, I hate that BYU got matched up with VCU. VCU can like really get after people. So that always scares me when BYU plays those type of teams. Though I'm not going to go as far as to maybe pick them, but I could easily see Wisconsin getting there if they were to match up with maybe Alabama at that point. With the status of Grant Nelson up in the air, he went out in the SEC tournament. St. Mary's gets to play a Vanderbilt team that many people thought might be in like the first four in Dayton. They get in easily as a 10 seed. Um, I don't, if I'm Alabama, I'm feeling pretty good about getting to that Sweet 16 or getting to the second weekend. But I think there's a real world where Wisconsin makes a run in this one.
Yeah. Again, it feels like a wide open region where like whatever team in here you do have some belief in, you should just pick through. That's what I'm gonna end up doing with BYU. More on that later. But I think you're right. Like pretty wide open for Duke, other than some player specific drama and any like double digit seeds you believe in. I would say the one thing for me, I don't want any of the 10 through 16s as like serious teams that could make a run here.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I have a hard time in this region really buying a double digit seed, to be honest with you. Maybe if Liberty was playing somebody else, I would do it, but I believe in Oregon enough to get past Liberty.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to pick any double digit seeds in this region. Now, maybe that'll be the region of chaos. Akron actually has my attention after John Gross's run through the MAC this week. VCU, if you count them too, like as an 11 seed, they pose an interesting matchup for BYU because of how much they pressure. You kind of have to have a point guard against them, and BYU doesn't really have anyone who creates their own shot. So, big Yegor Demon game. Like that's a game where Yegor could end up with like 11 turnovers and they
That's
get
scary.
packing early. Yeah, it's scary. Okay, down to the Midwest, Illinois and Purdue, two of our favorite teams in the same region. You got Houston as the one, Gonzaga is the eight. They get Georgia and Austin Newell. A couple mid majors that I really like: McNeese and High Point. McNeese versus Clemson, Purdue versus High Point. Illinois is going to get Texas or Xavier, which is hilarious for Brad Underwood, the Texas job, and Sean Miller in the same pod. That's just message board fodder for me. Kentucky against Troy. Kentucky, Illinois in the second round potentially would be pretty fun. And then UCLA is the seven, Tennessee is the two. What are your thoughts?
Wouldn't you rather be the two seed than the one seed in this region?
Yeah, yes, I
That
would.
that's where I'm at on it because Kentucky's beat up as a three seed. UCLA's limping in. Utah State loses their last game. I mean, Houston, obviously they're going to get past their first round matchup. Assume Gonzaga gets past that. We're looking at one of those situations where it's like, oh, this team's playing an 8-9 seed. They're also playing the current like ninth seed on KenPom, right? That's I mean, say what you want about Gonzaga. It's a top 10 metrical team that you got to play in the second round. I mean, I love Houston, but I literally rather be the two seed in this region than be the one.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of upset potential early in this region. Not necessarily something I'm proud of, but McNeese is awesome, and they came up short last year and brought a lot of guys back. Uh, High Point is like the mid-major everybody circled that isn't UC San Diego that some people like. So yeah, we'll do more on the individual specific game previews for those, but I completely agree. At the same time, there's nobody in this region that scares me if I'm Houston
Mhm.
because I think there's not too many physical teams in that top half, right? Like, is Houston and their physicality and their toughness going to struggle against Purdue or Clemson?
No, I
If
don't
you're a
think so.
mid-major, I don't think you feel good once you get to Houston.
No,
So it
no.
kind of one of those where I
There's a
think
lot.
Houston.
Also, there's a lot of other five seeds. As if I'm McNeese, the darling, that I would rather play besides Clemson.
Yeah, right. There's an argument the most scary game for Houston in their pod is Gonzaga
Yeah,
because
it
the
is.
analytics
Like
love them, and that's
you
one
make
team
it
that could hang.
if you make it if Houston makes it to the second weekend, I think they get a I think Final Four for me. But you got to
Yeah.
get past that second weekend or that
Other
first
thing
week.
I would just add, this is one of my things I pinpointed that I'm frustrated with in the bracket. No offense to anybody involved. Illinois and Kentucky, one of the two is going to make a Sweet 16. I wanted so badly to pick both of these teams to lose before the round of 32 or in it. Like I do not believe either of these teams is Sweet 16 caliber at all. A very hurt Kentucky versus an Illinois team that just has zero toughness to it.
Mm.
So it's going to be a really entertaining game, like great offense. I can't wait. I think if you're Illinois, you adore this draw, and if you're Kentucky, you adore this draw.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity that, quite frankly, I don't think both these teams deserve, but one of them should make it. So we'll see.
Very quickly in that Illinois matchup, do you have them getting past either team that wins that first four game?
I do.
Okay, and that's Texas Xavier, correct?
Yeah, I feel very confident Illinois will win one game.
Same. Yeah.
I'm not
I think
confident they're going to win
I
two.
echo your sentiment. If I'm an Illinois fan, I absolutely love my draw.
Yeah, right. Like you shouldn't be spooked by Kentucky
No,
if you believe in
no,
this Illinois team
not
at
at
all.
all.
At the same time, if you're a Kentucky fan, you should not be spooked by this Illinois team. So
No,
I'm frustrated because I come into this like where I'm going to make my money on brackets is like I'm selling these teams that everybody else wants to buy. The very top of my list is Illinois and Kentucky, and now I got to put one through. Like I'm sitting here trying to talk myself into Troy beating Kentucky, and then I'm like, all right, Illinois is just going to hammer them anyway. So God, man, kind of crazy to me. And then over to the final region in the West, Florida is the one. UConn as the 8 could get Dan Hurley versus the Florida Gators. Jeremiah Fears standing in the way of that game. You got Memphis versus Colorado State. The Crab 5 is the 4 seed versus Grand Canyon. Missouri Drake, Texas Tech is the 3 seed. And then the bottom 4 where everyone's real excited. Bill Self versus John Calipari for a date with Rick Pitino. Hall of Fame coaches everywhere in that bottom portion. What's your reaction?
how do we feel about Arkansas with Boogie Flan possibly coming back?
Think it might hurt him.
You think?
Think it might hurt him.
I think it might too. If you're St. John's, aren't you upset as a two seed in this spot after winning the Big East like they did and then winning the Big East title?
If I'm No, I'm not because I
No.
don't think Kansas or Arkansas are all that good.
Okay, it's a name. It's a name and it's a coach, but you're the clear better team.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the
Okay.
way to frame it. Yeah.
Okay, where I'm coming from on the West, I wouldn't want to be in this region just giving off coaching acumen alone. Like
Yeah,
you
right.
have Dan Hurley as an 8 seed, you have Bill Self as a 7 seed, Cal as a 10 seed, then you have Patino in this as well. Like I just as a I would not want any parts. I would be upset if I was the 2 seed in this region as a Michigan State fan.
Yeah, I hear you.
Also want zero parts of Florida right now. Absolutely zero parts.
Yeah, Gators fans are gonna love it. I hate the top half of this region. You know, I'm not a Maryland believer. I think Memphis is extremely overseeded. You got to kind of pick one of those teams. I'm not all that worried in Colorado State or Grand Canyon being upset teams. UConn, like, okay, you're gonna talk yourself into Dan Hurley because there's not a lot there with the team right now. So Florida, to me, again, similar to my Illinois Kentucky takes. I wanted to fade Florida while everybody else jumps on them. There's just nobody I believe to like pick them off before you get to an Elite Eight. In the Elite Eight, at that point, you're definitely banking on some great coach or buying into St. John's. So we'll see. I'm excited to hear who you have winning some of these matchups in a second. That's the end of our region by region initial reaction. Again, we'll have more on this. I think we'll probably do a region specific preview in for Tuesday's full episode. Once we have a full day to actually dive into all these games, we'll actually get our research out and give you some X's and O's on what we think will happen in all these games. But stay tuned, subscribe to the Sleepers Media YouTube channel so that you can see more.